What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the Alto again, and this time we are here with Levy of let me restart that. All right. What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the Alto again, and this time we are here with Levy of Living Gate as well as Dude. Thank you so much for being here. It is great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's an honor to have you here. This new Living Gate album, Suffer as One, is a kick-ass, just killing spree of an album, intensely brutal. It is everything we love from, death metal and every form of, extreme music that there is. We'll start off with like how the sort of project came to evolve. Was it just, members of Yob and Amon-Ra and yourself like just coming to explore new uncharted territory? Did you like seek each other out to make this project, or was this like a very natural sort of like you were all talking and it just sort of organically fell into place?
It happened over a long period of time. I mean, starting from the initial idea to start a death metal kind of project that originated with me and Leonard. We've always loved like geeking out about death metal, and we always thought like we have to do something like that ourselves one day. Up until the point where I actually started writing some songs and riffs. And when those kind of like the blueprints for those riffs were kind of set in place, by that time I was playing in Wiegeduld and Oathbreaker, and we all got to know Wim. We've known him for about 10 years now, I think. And he was a very obvious choice to take the drum parts, to do the drums in that band. So we kind of hashed out the blueprints I had for songs among the three of us, not really having any idea of who we could ask to play bass or to be in the band, even not really knowing if it was gonna be an actual band, or we didn't know what we're gonna do with the songs or anything. And then Wiegeduld went on tour with Yob, and we got to know Aaron. And we geeked out about the same stuff a bit on tour, old school death metal and stuff. And then later on, Amon-Ra, when I still played with them, did a US tour with Yob. So Leonard got to know Aaron as well. And I don't know, like at some point we met again after all that at Hellfest in France. And I just said to Leonard, like, hey, should we just ask Aaron if he wants to, I don't know, even just record bass tracks, and then we can see from there. I mean, we all knew it's difficult being in a band, like, when not all the members are on the same continent, but we were like, fuck it, let's ask. He's a hell of a bass player. So, and he was super excited, and that's how it all kind of got started.
Was that North American tour with Amon-Ra? Was it the tour that Voivod was on too?
Yeah.
Yep. I was there. That was a great
that's
time.
Great. What show were you?
I was at the Brooklyn show at Warsaw.
All right. Oh yeah, that was a cool show.
I remember that day too. It was April of 2019, I believe it was, and yep. And I remember I interviewed a Cradle of Filth and Wednesday 13 at Irving Plaza in Manhattan, and had to make it to Warsaw just in the nick of time to interview Voivod at that day.
Glad you made it.
God, those were the days, just running around the city like crazy, making one show to another. But was there at all, having this sort of like vision, was there any like influences from your previous projects? Was there like, let's take a little bit of Yob, let's take a little bit of Amon-Ra, let's take a little bit of Dude in it, and then kind of like combined our efforts in together? Or were you all really just exploring completely new uncharted territory with the making of Suffer as One?
Kinda, yeah. We didn't really, because the death metal genre is so far away from anything else we've done so far. I mean, it's all heavy music, but it's all in very different subgenres of heavy music. So there was never really the aim to have influences of Yob or Wiegeduld creep in there. I guess naturally, because it's us. We're in those bands and we write music the way that we do. So it'll definitely creep in there a bit naturally, but we definitely like wanted to start anew and have Living Gate have its own identity and not really you know have any of our previous bands influence it too much, besides from the fact that we play music like we do and we write music like we do, and it's always going to creep in there a bit, but we really did want to go like full old school death metal with Living Gate.
Now, I love old school death metal. I'll always listen to Deicide and Cannibal Corpse, Obituary, Morbid Angel, Monstrosity, like all these classic death metal bands. But one thing I was always sort of puzzled with death metal, and I kind of wanted to make this the focal point of the interview. Sometimes I usually like talk about the songwriting or the artist's journey and whatnot, but I wanted to actually make death metal the sort of like main focal point of this because, again, as somebody who loves death metal, but I never understood how people could be so selective with it sometimes. Like, I know people who are being like, I don't want to listen to Gate Creeper or Frozen Soul or Creeping Death or any of that new school stuff, but it sounds just as good as any old school stuff we've heard. So what do you think a lot of the diehard death metal fan, is there something really that specific that they're looking for?
I don't know. I've noticed that metal fans are kind of, and this is not a diss or anything, but they can be a bit elitist about the genre and the music. And I don't know. I think maybe some people can't handle the fact that modern bands kind of not copy the old school and the originals, but they surf on the same vibe and the same way of playing, which kind of is the genre and is the music, and I don't know, like I think a lot of people just go into a mode where they're like, oh, this just sounds like that band from 30 years ago, so fuck it. You could just listen to Morbid Angel instead of the newer version of it, which is, I don't know, I get it at a certain level, but at the same time, like if you like listen to a band like Black Breath, who drew who drew influence from like the Swedish death metal sound with the HM2 and but they did it so well. Like it's up there with the better Entombed records for me. So it's also nice to have, something new and fresh to listen to in the same style. And I don't always have the need to kind of dismiss bands over the fact that they drew influence from something that's already been done. It's not everything has to be like super innovative or new. Just
because, and I also like to point out, just because something's original doesn't necessarily mean it's good either. And like, just because and just because something is copying, like, look, I love, one of my favorite records to come out this year was the new 200 Stab Wounds record. Fantastic death metal album. But in my review of it, I have called it anything but original. I haven't called it an original album. And originality doesn't always mean good. Sometimes it can be, taking direct inspiration and still do it just fine.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing with like, it's not like Cannibal Corpse has evolved their sound over the many, many years they've been a band. They're still kind of making the same kinds of records with that specific sound that they have. And it's great. They keep like putting out quality records and but it's not that they're suddenly incorporating jazz or they're not doing anything super innovating or anything. They just keep going in the same direction they've always been going, and I kind of like that. Well, one of my favorite bands is AC/DC, and they've made the same album 30 fucking times, but it's again and again it's good. Like, if it's not broken, you don't really have to fix it. I guess.
Is it me though? I think there has never been a better time to be a death metal musician or be in a death metal band, because like I see Cannibal Corpse, sure, Cannibal Corpse or Morbid Angel, they're not playing fucking stadiums like to what AC/DC would, but like they're selling out 3,000 to 5,000 cap venues a lot now. Like, I'm seeing death metal. I just saw Dark Tranquillity headline Gramercy Theater, 500 cap, completely sold out, and they play there like once a year, and they sell it out every time. So it just seems like death metal really seems to be at like one of the greatest places it's ever been. I'm only 31, so I didn't experience it, you know, when it was as underground or, you know, in the 90s or whatnot, but like it really seemed like death metal is in the best place it's ever been.
Well, I think that definitely counts for like those original bands who are still doing what they, you know, who started everything and who are still going. To us, it's a bit different. Like I 100% like support the fact that kind of they deserve to play, you know, the huge shows that they're playing right now, and because they started the whole movement and they you know, they kind of originated the genre and everything. So it's nice to see that they're actually getting it's nice to see that they are, you know, getting the respect and getting something in return for all that hard work that they've put in over the years. As a smaller death metal band, and I'm not saying that we're the reference for this, you know, at all, because this is our first record. This, you know, we've been a band since 2020, if you look at it on paper. But when we released our EP, Corona hit, so we didn't get to, you know, I think we've played maybe 10 live shows. So it's not a big reference, but it is also like when we were booking the tour for this record, like we did notice it's not that easy. Like it's not like promoters are willing to take a big risk on us, and you know, we're not playing huge venues, and which is fine, and I never mind paying my dues. Like we've done that with every band, and I know that every new band and every new project, you need to kind of pay your dues. But it's not like I don't know, like I don't feel like there's so much, like the death metal scene is exploding that much, really. Like maybe for smaller bands, I don't know, like it's not that easy for us.
I mean, I don't think it's easy for any death metal band. Now, by no means was I saying like death metal like is, you know, the new movement. Like it's not like death metal is exploding like the way new metal exploded back in the early 2000s or something like that, or in the 90s. But like I never would have thought that a band like Frozen Soul would be on a full-fledged arena tour with Amon Amarth, who would also be headlining arenas at this point. Like, it just seems like a lot of these bands who I have been seeing for 10 years now, when I first started seeing them, they were already around for 20 years, and they just seem like they're getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, which is great. And I think maybe it's also the fact that metal in its entirety is just grown a lot, like the internet, and it's become more of a mainstream thing, which is you know, just a good thing. I mean, like if you look at festivals like Hellfest or Wacken Open Air, like these things are huge. Like if you go to those places, you can't really say that metal is an underground thing anymore. There's definitely an underground aspect to it. And there's local shows and small venues and smaller bands who still remain in that underground. But it's also nice that there's bigger stages for bands, and that there's a bigger audience for bands. And it's great to see that even the more extreme subgenres of metal, like death metal, are, getting a place in that and are growing. Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of like promoters and like security staff at venues, and they say that the death metal shows are still like their best, are still like their favorite shows, because apparently the death metal crowd is the most well-behaved crowd too. So
yeah, I can imagine that if you compare a metal festival to like an electronic techno festival, like I don't know, maybe it's because it's my crowd that I prefer them over EDM people, but like I don't know, like
I like some EDM, but I totally get.
Me too. I like
electronic death metal.
Like the
electronic death metal instead of electronic dance music. Let's do electronic death metal and take the term EDM.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Uh, but yeah, I like the music too. From time to time. I'm from Belgium, so like we have a big electronic music scene here. But I don't know. It's just the people and the vibe, and it's with metal shows and with metal music in general. I think people going to festivals and going to shows and listening to the records are doing it more out of love for the music and for the movement than people who go to electronic musical festivals. I don't know. I think they just want to take drugs sometimes and get fucked up till 8 in the morning. Uh,
Well,
you know,
that's what they do.
which is,
That's what they do.
but yeah, exactly,
Like,
exactly.
I think from the outside looking in, some people would look at death metal shows and be like, "Why would you spend 30, $40 on a ticket?" And this is obviously somebody who hates death metal or doesn't like death metal talking, but like I can almost see where their perspective comes from. Why would you spend 30, $40 on a death metal ticket just to run around in a circle and beat each other up in a pit for 3 hours at a time? And so like I think that there's questioning in all aspects of it. I also
Definitely, definitely.
yeah. And going back to that elitist comment that you mentioned earlier, you have a good point. I am willing to bet how many people who have the possessed patch on their denim vest actually listen to Possessed.
It's a good question. There's a lot of, I don't know, like, yeah, there's a lot of coolness in the whole scene as well, where people want to, yeah, it's kind of, it's like having, are there Cannibal Corpse shirts at H&M? Probably by now. Like, I mean, it's like, yeah, people just want to look cool sometimes and don't really care about the music. But I think it's a minority, and I don't think those people go out to underground metal shows.
When it comes to like the to making death metal music, do you feel that there is an I feel like you also do have your own identity in Suffer Is One as well, because I feel like when I listen to like the title track Suffer Is One, or a track such as like Hunting Maggots or Atoms and Particles, there's plenty of your own identity within there. So when it came to the songwriting of this album, who like was there sort of like at all a vision behind it, or was it let's just make the most brutal, most intense heavy shit we can?
Yeah, it always comes pretty natural with us and with any of the bands that we're in. I think I can't speak for y'all per se, but it's I'm assuming that it is. But it's just like with Living Gate, we never jam. We just like somebody will have some riffs and have some ideas that we can turn into a song, and then we'll work on it. And we will try every possible angle to you know to make the best song, and try out different things that serve the song the best. Like if it's you know, it we're not trying to fit a mold per se, you know, like we'll do something that there's a part at the end of Suffer As One, which almost kind of sounds like ISIS to me. So we'll leave that stuff in there, and we'll use that stuff if it serves the song or if it serves the record. So it all comes pretty natural to us. Like we don't have a set. We don't preset like we have to have this vibe, or we have to have this type of riff, or we have to, you know, what comes out, and that's what we work with, and that's what we're trying to make the best possible album with to our ability. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for this album. It's absolutely kick-ass. Is there just anything else with Living Gate you'd like to promote in terms of what we could be expecting in terms of touring or upcoming shows, or even more new music in the future?
Well, it's difficult to tour for us, seeing the situation where we have like a gazillion bands to keep in mind. But we have our upcoming European tour. If any European listeners are listening, we're on tour from October 26th till November 13th, I think. We're doing Switzerland, Italy, like some mainland Europe shows. And I'm really hoping we can, you know, get another one in there. and hopefully we can visit the US as soon as possible. We definitely want to promote the record out there as well. That's seeing Aaron is from the US. That's like one flight ticket less we have to we have to get, so that'll be good. But other than that, yeah, like I don't think this is the last Living Gate record. Definitely, I think we have a lot more in us, and we just want to play as much as possible, and hopefully a lot of people come out.
You'll see me there for sure. Thank you so much.
All right, that's great. Thank you.
Anytime. Everybody, we are here with Living Gate. Be sure to check out Suffer as One, coming out October 25th. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.
All right.